Hello again, YouTube. This is me, the Random Stranger, on YouTube. Today, I am back with another video, and this video will be specifically my Weiss Schwarz deck profile for Madoka Magica that I built from the cards that I opened in the pack opening video, which you could, of course, watch if you would like. And find on my channel if you would like. So once again, I did the pack opening, and I still have the Rebellion box. The Rebellion box that I haven't opened yet. So this will just strictly be from cards from this box. So for veteran Weiss players, you'll realize how bad the deck is. And as for, sort of, Madoka fans, if you don't see your favorite waifu, please forgive me. What I will say, a little bit of background introduction, I guess, before I get into the details of the video, sorry for ranting, is I did enjoy watching, or more specifically, binging Madoka. I got Crunchyroll Premium just for that, and although I did enjoy, I feel like I kind of ruined the experience with the pack opening and with the amount of comments that I've read. Not on my video, no, definitely not. But the comments that I've read regarding Madoka as a series, as an anime, and sort of the dissections of the anime. What I will say is, Shaft as the animation studio, the only other Shaft anime that I've watched is the Monogatari series, specifically Bakemonogatari, and its art style is definitely pretty similar. I mean, it is the same animation studio. But yeah, the music, I believe it was like Calafina, and the OSTs were all very beautiful. Now, once again, for this deck profile, it will be strictly green. This color will be strictly green, and for green, it is more Madoka and Homura focus. So if you don't see your favorite waifus like Kyoko, or Sayaka, or Mami, or actually, I guess even, not just waifus, I guess, even characters like Kyubey. I don't know why anyone would like Kyubey, but that's on you. That's perfectly fine. I could understand it, I suppose. But yeah, if you don't see your waifus like Sayaka, or like Kyoko, or Mami, try not to lose your head over it. I am so evil. So I guess to start off, I have two of these dark-haired girl Homuras. I'll zoom in a bit so that it's a lot easier for you to read. So like, yeah, you know, if you want to pause it and read some of the characters that have effects, or some of the cards that have effects, you could do that. But I run two of these because, you know, it's a base, like a vanilla 3K, very strong, like good level 0 opening. So there's that. And I also have these three Homuras. I'm also going to try and avoid mentioning the names of the cards, because some of the names would spoil the anime. Like, if you know what Homura is, that's a spoiler. And, oh god, I feel like by mentioning that, I already spoiled it. So I'm just gonna refer to the cards as this card and this card. Once again, feel free to pause and read the effects if you would like. If you would like to not spoil yourself and then watch the anime, go ahead and do that. But I run this because as long as there's another card with the name Madoka in it, it's an automatic plus 1500. So that just makes the early game even stronger. If you fit the conditions, like fulfill the conditions, it's stronger than the base 3K Homura. So there's that. Alright. And then, after that, I run two of these Madokas. Two because it's a really powerful effect as long as the other number of other characters that I have on the stage is 2 or less. That means if I have this character and 2 other copies of her, it still fulfills the requirements. And that means she's an automatic base 3500. Excuse me. And that is just makes the sort of like board state, like my opening, a lot stronger. And a lot of cards will probably run into issues. And if with further like assist or like support from the backstage assist characters, that will just be really, really powerful. So like in the center, if I have like 2 of the assists, that will be like an automatic, I believe it's 4500, but then you would lose out on like effectiveness for stacking your soul. And I also run 2 of them because I only pulled 2. Whoop-de-doo. Afterwards, I have these 3 copies of this specific Madoka. I'm really sorry for switching between Homoda and Madoka. Like, I'm not going through one specific character and then another character. I'm sorry about that, if you're nitpicky like that. But I feel like this card is really good, because its effect is whenever it attacks, I choose another of my magic characters, and that character gets plus 10k until the end of my opponent's next turn. So it's like, with the 3k based Homoda, that's a 4k until the end of my opponent's turn, and unless if they have something that's really strong, they can't really, like, deal with it. But then again, level 0, no one really cares. You could side attack as much as you like. But it makes it so my board stays consistent. I'll always have characters on the stage. Like, my opponent would want to think twice about removing my board, essentially. Okay, one of the problems that I'm running into right now is I don't know which cards I already went through and which ones I didn't. So then I have 2 of these Homodas. It's just basic assist characters that just provides the front characters with power. So plus 500 for every character in front of this. So that's pretty basic. And then I believe, yes, I have 3 of these Homodas. Nurse's Aid Madoka. Did I say Homona? I mean Madoka. Wow. I'm really out of it. Once again, I'm going to avoid saying some names over others, because I don't want to spoil, but it's pretty self-explanatory why I mentioned this character's name. This has the effect where if I have a specific climax, what I could do is pay 1 stock and select a character from my clock and add that character to my hand, and the top card of my deck goes into my clock. So this is, in my opinion, really good, because it's one of the ways in this deck where I could remove stock. So if I have a climax in there, I could remove it. And it's just a +1 to my hand size, and it prevents climaxes from being stocked, because if like the top card is a climax, this effect would trigger first before the trigger check. So there's that. But other than that, it's just a 2500 attack with 1 soul Madoka. Alright. And then I have 2 of these Homodas. I run 2 of these because I do actually have 1 copy of the Bond character, the Bond target. And yes, this effect is Bond. So for those of you that don't know, Bond is when you play this character from your hand, you could pay the cost. And if you do, go through your waiting room, which is technically your graveyard, and add that specific character, that specific Bond target into your hand. So it's really good to get a character and like play 1 character and get a card into your hand, and generally it combos. It's meant to cards that have like specific targets, like climaxes or bonds, are really powerful, which is why you'd want to run them. What I will say is having only one copy of the bond target would probably not be a good idea to run these cards in general, in my opinion, but I'm limited by the amount of cards and resources that I have. And then I have this Homoda. The clock symbol means if this character is in my clock, what I could do is switch it out with another character of the same color. Its color is green. Or switch it out with another card, another green card, and put this into my hand, and the card goes into my clock. So what I could do is on my opening turn, like clock this, draw 2 cards, and if I have like a climax or whatever, I could switch it out with this one, and I would still have something to play on the first turn. And it also has the ability where when I play it, I could send 2 characters from my graveyard back into my deck and then shuffle it, and this card gets, I believe it's plus 2k power until the end of turn. So that's basically all of my level 0s. And we're going to move on to level 1s. Alright, so for level 1s, I'll start off with these 3 copies of the Madoka and Homoda characters. It does have the effect where if I have the specific climax that this card talks about, I get paid a cost, and all of my other magic characters, not other magic characters, that means these ones included, themselves included, gets plus 2500 power. And that's really strong, because if I just have 3 of these, that's plus 25, and then when the other one attacks, it's another plus 25, and the other one plus attacks is also another plus 25. So it's a easy, very easy plus 7500, and that will be enough to just blow over even level 3 characters. So if you're finding yourself late game and you need to like clear the opponent's board, I guess these would be my really powerful board clears. It's also one of the best ways of paying out stock, in my opinion, because you can see the cost itself is 0. But it's really conditional because I need to fulfill these specific requirements in order to get the effect. And of course, I would run 4 of them, or maybe I wouldn't run 4 of them. I would instead run 4 of the level 0 Nurse's Aid Madokas, because card advantage is just so strong. So there's that. And then I have this Madoka, which is just a basic, well, not a basic one. It's level 1, cost 1, so it's a good way to pay out stock. And it's a 6500 power, but if you could fulfill the effect in its description, where if my stock is 4 or more, it automatically gets a plus 1000. So if you can manage your resources properly, or you get like a really good level 0 opening, and then you play this one and have it attack last, you'll definitely get the plus 1000 power like automatically. It's just really guaranteed. It will be a really strong card for your opponent to deal with, in my opinion. I kind of wish I have more of this, but I don't. I didn't get as lucky in my opening, I guess. Pack opening, I guess. But it is rare, and I do have 1 copy, so there's that. And then next, I'll go over my other Madokas. I run 2 of these because I just really like the shift ability. As mentioned earlier, it means if this is in my clock, I switch it out with another green card and add it to my hand. And it also has the brainstorm effect. So it's just really good to pay out the stock. Excuse me. And to just go through your deck and make sure those climaxes hit the waiting room and whatnot. So, and it's also really good for if I want to clock it, draw 2 cards, and then switch it out with another card that's useless. So there is that. And then I run 2 of these Homodas. This Homoda is a change, has the change effect. And I do have the change target, like the card that changes into. And it also has the ability where I could rest this. And one of my characters got plus 1,000 power until the end of my opponent's next turn. Which is, again, just really high numbers that the opponent will have to deal with if they want to clear my board, specifically. It's also a 1 cost, so it's really good for paying out the stock. So there is that. And then for the last, actually second to last of my level 1s, I have this Madoka. It's a backup character. So it's a pay 1 stock, pick 1 character that is in battle or battling your opponent, and it gets plus 1,500. And it also has the extra ability of when the card is played as a backup, I could choose one of my green characters, and that green character gets plus 1k power until the end of turn. So basically, I'm pretty sure this is basically just plus 2,500 to a character that is battling. And that's just like a really good surprise play against your opponent who's trying to clear your board. Which is why I run 2 of these. If I have more, I probably would run more. Because it's basically, forget it. I don't want to spoil anything. And then I run 1 of these event cards. Basically, it's pay 1, put this card into your graveyard, or waiting room for the more traditional Weiss players, and go through my deck and pick 1 magic character and add it to my hand, shuffle your deck afterwards. So basically, this card could turn into any character that you'd want, which is very handy if you're like level 3 and you have like 2-3 damage and you need a healer. You could just pull that out. It is, of course, pay 1 stock in order to use it, so that might be a downside. It's also a good thing because it's one of the few ways in this deck to pay out stock, so I'm going to count it as a positive. And now we move on to level 2s. And now for level 2s, I have 1 of this Homoda. Yes, 1 of this Homoda. It's, once again, it's a shift character. So switch this out with another green card in your clock and add it to your hand. It also has a climax combo, in which if this is the last card to attack, it gets plus 7k power. Well, technically if you can read the description or read the ability, I'm sorry. But if it's the last one to attack, it gets plus 7k power. And that's just a really powerful 12k that would just run over even your opponent's level 3s. So it's really good for board clearing. And it's really handy if you like clock this and switch it out with another card that's useless. Although technically all cards have their uses, is what I'll say. And then the next one, I run this Homoda. There's another Madoka like card character that is referenced in its ability. I do not have that card, but the reason why I run her is she's an automatic refresh. That means, and that works because of her ability of if my deck is 5 or less cards, I take all the cards in my waiting room, or essentially the graveyard, and shuffle them all back into my deck. So this is a really good way to refresh my deck while also essentially negating the refresh damage that I would take. So that's why I run one of her. It also doesn't hurt that I've actually pulled her, which is also one of the reasons why I would run her. And next I have this copy of Homura. And she is actually one of the bond targets, I believe, from one of my earlier, I believe, level 1 cards. The one where I rest and character gets plus 10 or plus 1k. So that's one of the reasons why I run her. It's also a very good card in my opinion, where she's essentially a 9k power if I fulfill the requirement of having 5 or more cards in my stock. And also, this also has the ability where if it gets reversed or turned like this, I believe what I could do is like pay the cost of putting a magic character into my graveyard or waiting room, and this moves to memory. And in the beginning of my next draw phase, she would move back to the board, to the field, in any position that I want. So this is really good because it's basically hand-on core. Yeah, it's basically hand-on core. So it's a lot easier than paying 3 stock. Because, you know, you'd want to keep the stock fuller in order to get the plus 10k or plus 1k. But it's also interesting because it moves to memory and then it comes back. So it's like you could suicide with this and then it will probably, you could move it to memory. And that would leave you open to like your opponent's attack, but it's like you don't have to worry about it until later on, which is really good in my opinion. Next I run 2 of these event cards. The reason why I picked these is because obviously its effect. Look at the top 3 cards of your opponent. You could pick one of them and send it to the bottom of their deck, and then for the other remaining, you could rearrange them on top in any order. The reason why I put emphasis on could is if I'm reading the card correctly, which I hope I am, that means I don't have to send 1 card to the bottom. I could keep all 3 cards on top. And these 2 would be like my game enders. Because if my opponent is at like 4 damage at level 3, I basically could guarantee that he or she will take those 3 damage. If the ability works the way that I think I do. I think it does. So if I have more of these, I probably would run it. And level 2 is probably the least amount of cards that I'll have. So if I were to substitute them, I would probably substitute level 0s out and like maybe 1 more of these and some other ones in. But there's that. Wow, I managed to go through all the level 2 Homuras. Next, I have this level 2 Madoka. And this is, in my opinion, one of the more powerful cards, because its assist is plus, characters in front gets plus 500 times, or well, plus X power. X is equal to the level of the character in front times 500. So if I have... So it's like a really conditional assist, where if I have like a level 3 character, that would be plus, what, 1500? But if I have a level 0, that would be plus 0, because 0 times 500 is 0. But I also run this one because it's a bond or change character. I realized I made a mistake in explaining one of my cards. It's a change effect and not a bond effect. Anyways, this is a change effect, so I could change this card out for a different card that is referenced in its ability name. And that card has to be in the waiting room or graveyard. So this is just really good for if you're at level 2. You play this one, it immediately your front row gets support or supported by the plus 500, depending on its level. So if you have a front row full of level 2s, that's plus 1k. So those are the immediate effects. But then if you're still at level 2 by the end of your opponent's turn, you activate its change ability, you pull out, well, you pay the cost, send it to the waiting room, and you pull out the change target. And that change target, spoiler alert, is level 3. So you'll have a level 3 character while you're at level 2. Which is really powerful because of the various factors that Weiss Schwarz has. And finally, for the flex, this Madoka. It is, in fact, SP. It is, in fact, signed. If you watch my pack opening, you'll know how happy I was. But anyways, on to the abilities or the cards. So it's 7,500. It's pretty low for a level 2, because generally level 2s with vanillas, like as in no abilities and just power, you're aiming at 9k. Now this character makes up for that sort of deficit with its abilities. Of course, they're very conditional. The first one is, if I have 3 or more other of my magic characters, it's an automatic plus 1k power. So at level 2, you'll more than likely have a board full of characters. So she's an automatic basic 8.5 or 8,500. And then with the other ability, relating to a certain climax card, what happens is you would attack, and this card would get plus 2k. So that's basically 10,500 if you could fulfill the first requirement and the third requirement. And it will be until the end of my opponent's next turn. Which means it's a really powerful card of 10,500. And it's only at level 2, which is pretty big. Like, I'll just say it's pretty big. And now for the third part of its ability, even though I read it last, because I feel like it makes more sense for me to do it this way, is if the same climax that is referenced in this ability is in the climax area, I could choose one of my characters and put that character into memory, and in the beginning of my next draw phase, I could put that character back on the stage. So what this means is basically I could have any of my characters suicide into my opponent just to wipe their board, and I could just move them back into memory. Yeah, I could just move them into memory, and I don't have to worrying about paying the stock for Encore. I don't have to worry about them being in the waiting room for when I refresh. There is the down effect of that's one less character to count towards the 3 or more characters for the first ability. But you generally wouldn't have to worry about that problem, in my opinion, unless if your opponent runs cards that automatically remove characters without going through battle. So, yeah, it's also signed. Yeah. Alright, and now it's on to level 3s. We're almost there. Alright, and moving on to level 3s, we have, or I have, let me just have my camera focus. I have 2 of these Madokas. And what I will say is a lot of my level 3s that I run are there mainly because they were the only level 3s that I got that are also green. So I have 2 of these Madokas, which is if I have 3 or more magic characters, it's an automatic plus 1k. So that's 11k actually. And when this is placed from my hand onto the field or board or stage, all of my other characters, or all of my characters, gets plus 2k. I'm assuming the card itself is also affected by the plus 2k power, because it hits the field and then its ability activates. I'm not entirely sure if that's how the ruling works, but if it does, that's basically what 10k, 11k, 13k, and all of the other characters also get the plus 2k, so you would want to fill your board and play this one last. Unless if for whatever reason you want to stack multiple of these on top or whatever. And it also has the act ability of pay 1 stock, and this card gets plus 2k. So because it's an act ability, you could like just trigger, you could empty out your entire stock and get 2k plus however much stock you paid out, I guess. Of course, there be no reason to do that with just paying once and all the other conditions being fulfilled. That's already a 15k card. Like, you don't need to send your opponent to the Shadow Realm that desperately. But if you're sadistic like that, then go ahead. It's all about proving a point. Kind of. Next I have these 2 Homodas. Is it focusing? Also should apologize for the bad lighting, I guess. I just want to make sure you guys can see it. Okay. Like the Madoka, it's a level 3, cost of 2. This has the ability of the number of cards that my stock is 4 or less. It gets plus 500 power. The plus 500 power isn't really the most important thing, but it's the second part of the ability. The Encore ability, which is basically Hand Encore. I assume it's Hand Encore. I'm not familiar with Weiss terms. But basically, you to Encore this card, put another character from your hand into your waiting room, and you Encore it. Boom. Done. Second ability, the character facing this card gets -1 soul. -1 soul is just really powerful. It basically means if your opponent side attacks against a level 3 plus a -1 soul, they're never going to be able to do damage unless if they get really lucky with the triggers. Which is sort of like a problem that the opponent will have to overcome, but because its power would only be, what, 10,500. The opponent could probably be able to just, like, battle, like, destroy this card with no issue, I suppose. And then we have this Homoda, which is I only have one copy of. Like with the other level 3s, level 3, cost of 2, has the specific ability of if a card named that name, once again don't want to spoil, is in my memory, this card gets plus 1500. That means it's a base 11,500, which is, you know, still powerful enough to where the opponent will have to struggle to get through. But this card, yeah, if that target is in the memory, plus 1500. Next is when this card is frontal attacked, look at the top card of your deck and put it on top or into your waiting room. This is probably one of my favorite abilities because it's basically you decide whether or not you take 1 extra damage or if you take damage at all, potentially. Because you get to determine, like, you would check the card, and if it's a character or a non-climax, you would probably want to send it into the waiting room. And if instead it's a climax, just put it back on top and you cancel that damage. So it's just really powerful in its utility, and it's also pretty good because of its power if you could fulfill its condition. And that's that. And finally, we have this Madoka. This is the Madoka that is referenced in sorry, my heating just turned on. In this Homoda. And what's even better, I guess, is this card has the effect where I can move it to memory and search my deck to bring out this card. So it's another, like, change ability. Technically, it doesn't use the word change specifically. And it already fulfills this card's requirement. By moving this one to memory, I bring out this one, and it fulfills the requirement of the plus 1500. So it's just a really powerful combo, which I believe if I have more copies, my level 3 would just be probably have an equal amount of cards as my level 2, because I don't see myself removing, hold on, so let me zoom out, because I don't see myself removing these copies. Like, I just love Madoka and Homoda that much, I guess. Once again, I'm building this deck off of sentimental value rather than functionality. Like, I try to add as much functionality as possible. But back to explaining the Madoka card. Because that's not all there is to it. Because, yes, the ability to bring it out is... to bring out this Homoda is definitely very good. It also has the effect of if this is played from hand, or if this is brought out from the change ability, in which I believe it's Madoka Swing. I think I could say the name of that card without spoiling much. Okay, I'll just say, I do have one copy of the card. This one right here, that changes into this Madoka. And its ability is, if it's placed from hand or brought onto the stage by the change ability, I heal 1 damage from my clock. Obviously, the damage is from the top of my clock, so you can't pick and choose, but it's still good. So, you're at level 2, or I'm at level 2. I change into this card, heal 1 damage. That's 1 damage further away from hitting level 3 and closer to losing and less closer to losing the game. So those are all the character/event cards. Now I'll move on to the climax cards. Alright. And I'll start by preferencing all of my climax cards. Like half of my climax choices are climax combos with the characters that are inside. And the reason why I have that many copies of those as my climax for this deck, like why I run this many copies of the climax as the climax in my deck, if that makes sense, is because I only pulled that many copies. For example, these two have the climax combos with one of my characters, the Nurse's Aid Madoka. I'm pretty sure that's the only full card name that I've mentioned. And I only run 2 of this because I only have 2 of these. And I run the Nurse's Aid Madoka in the deck, which is why I chose these 2. If I have 1 more, I would probably add 1 more copy. So there's just more potential to have the climax combo go off. Because once again, with that specific combo, it's hand advantage. Take a character from your clock and add it to my hand. And that could help me set up for like the next level. Like say I'm at level 1 and I have level 2 characters in my clock. I play these and attack, retrieve the level 2s, and then my opponent like sends me to level 2 and I'm ready for the level 2 game. So there's that. And of course I would probably run 1 more if I had an extra copy, but I don't. So there's that. Next I have these 2 climaxes. Oh, I should probably also go over you can tell how bad I am by how much I'm going back. 2 soul triggers and that's it. Also feel free to pause and read the ability of it if you would like, and anything of the sort. And then, oops, 2 of these Homodas, or climaxes, wow. Spoiler alert, this is Homoda. It's a bag trigger, and that means when it's triggered, you could put the top card of my deck into your stock. So it's basically like a gold bar, only this card also goes into stock, which it's a bit of a personal preference. You have more stock, but you blind stock a card. So once again, it's like gold bar, only it gives you a lot more stock advantage, which is why in my deck I have a heavy focus on paying out stock, because that's just how I like it. But this climax combos with one of my level 1 characters. I believe it's the Homoda and Madoka card. The one where you get plus 25, where all characters get plus 2500 if this is in the climax. So there's that. As for would I run an extra one of them if I had an extra copy, I would probably say no. And that is And that is mainly because, actually, would I? Probably not, because the blind stocking is a bit iffy. If it was a gold bar card, I would definitely run a lot more, because when the gold bar triggers, you add it to your hand instead. And the other factor, in my opinion, is my climax combo like, I have too many climax combo cards to where the deck is pretty much imbalanced. And this is really good for blowing up your opponent's board. But I feel like with the add the card to your hand combo with this one is just more advantageous. But then again, blowing up your opponent's board is also really useful, so there's that. Next, I have... This is where things get a little tricky. I suppose. This climax, whoops. It's a double soul, and the effect is all characters get +2 soul. This is also one of my climax combos. Yeah, I like, as I mentioned earlier, a lot of climax combo cards in my deck. But I believe this is the one where it's with my signed Madoka, I believe. So, obviously, I'm gonna run it in my deck. Yep. And if I run this, I basically have to run these two. Otherwise, it loses its utility benefits. So, there's that. Also, I'm really sorry for the camera setup, because I just don't have a proper setup, I guess. Well, don't have a proper setup in the sense of it's not good. Next I have this. I won't, I'm not gonna, well, spoiled it there. But, once again, feel free to pause and read. I am not consistent, but, I believe this is also one of my climax combos. I'm not entirely sure, but I'm pretty sure it is. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it is actually one of my climax combos. And, that basically means, I would run it, because I can't remember what the, combo effect is. I could just, like, search for it. Hold on. Okay, I honestly thought that this card was a climax combo card, or maybe it is, and I just don't have the character that combos with it. Or maybe I'm actually confusing this with another set of climaxes that I got. This one, I'm confusing this one with this one, I think, because this has a character that combos with it, but I don't run this. But I don't run this as the climax, so I'm not gonna go over that. But one of the reasons why I have this, I guess, is because it's a bar trigger. That means I add it to my hand, and its effect when I put on my climax is all characters +1k and +1 soul. The extra power is never a bad thing. It helps you go over your opponent's cards. And when you trigger this, it's like a guarantee hand advantage. And you basically don't have to worry about it. You basically don't have to worry about paying it out of stock, because it will be in your hand, and you have more control with your hand, in my opinion, than you do with your stock. With this deck, I believe. I might be wrong. I'm not a veteran player. And finally, I have this climax. I'm pretty sure if I have more of these, I would run either 2 or 3 of this. Because, and I actually made a mistake, sort of, with the level 3 Homoda explanation, is this card needs this specific climax in order to activate its ability to bring out this Homoda. So obviously, if I have more of this, I would run more of this. And obviously, I would run more of this if I have this. So it's a chain cyclical explanation of why I make some choices that I do. Other than that, it's a bar. That means if I ever trigger it, this combo is basically a guarantee. If I ever trigger this. And that also means this combo is a guarantee. I'm really glad that I did actually pull these out of my packs, because that's just really strong in my opinion. And that is basically that with my deck profile. So to summarize, the way that I built this deck, I guess, is 1, it's monocolor, only green. Homura and Madoka theme focus. Once again, it's built based off of more sentimental values than functionality. And it's also limited by the type and number of cards that I pulled from my pack opening. So there's that. I've never really played with this deck, so I don't know how well it will perform. I'm pretty sure the veteran players could say, if there are any in the audience, you know, the 10 or so viewers, if I'm lucky, could probably say, like, it's very bad, like, right off the bat. They could tell. And if you watch my pack opening video, which is available on my YouTube, I would have explained that you need 5 of these to build a more functional deck, and you'll need 7 to 8 if you want a more competitive deck, ideally. But I would think I did not too bad, because as much as I want sentimentality, there's also some functionality and utility that I put into the deck. So that is basically it for my deck profile. Right now I'm just currently under an hour, which is a big improvement. Sorry for all the rambling. If you did stick by for this long, what I will also say is the video is also that long because I threw together whatever green cards I have. So I have more variations of characters and cards in general for one specific level. Whereas if you were to buy like a trial deck, it's more compact and fitting to do a deck profile because there's less variations and more focus. Now, with that said, if you would like for me to, oops. Oh, by the way, the card sleeves that I used are Ishtar, or technically Reen, from Fate Grand Order specifically, Babylonia. Yeah, but with that said, or the previous thing that was said, if you would like me to go over the other cards that I pulled from the pack opening, I would not mind making a video for that. What I'll do is I'll probably like make a video for like 1 video per color. I'm pretty sure those are going to be half-hour long because of my rambling, even though I only got a couple. So I could do that if you would like. I could also go over the green cards that didn't make it into my deck and explain a little bit of why I made those choices. And yeah, that's pretty much it for the actual deck profile. And a little bit more of the rambling. If you would also like for me to do like a tutorial on how Weiss Schwarz works, I could do that for you if you would like, my faithful audience. Or if, you know, Madoka's your favorite series, anime series, and hey, what is this Weiss Schwarz thing? I'm interested. I have money to blow. I could buy 8 boxes and open them. I could also do the tutorial video, although what I will say is there are better options, like more informed people that could do the tutorial for you. If you do want me to do one, I'll try my best. I'll probably use one of my trial decks, probably the Monogatari trial deck that I got. Yes, I actually got that. But if I inspire you to want to watch Madoka, or if you're already a fan but you want to get into Weiss Schwarz, I would be very happy if I was the one that inspired you. It makes me feel like I'm accomplished. And that is basically that. If there's anything else, I will just patch it in with a later recording. Of course, you would never know that. Yeah, I think I covered everything. But in the event that I didn't, I'm wearing my ring in my middle finger now. Woohoo. So yeah, have fun. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays. Good health. Get into Weiss Schwarz if you would like to. And bye. Bye.